We have an emotional train wreck roller coaster chapter in Chainsaw Man, chapter 181. So let's start talking about it. I'm uploading a little bit late. Yes, I know. Yesterday, I completely forgot we were going to have a Chainsaw Man chapter. And by the time I noticed we had a chapter, it was like 12 a.m. and I was way too sleepy to actually upload a video. So here I am the next day. But, here I am the next day, but still uploading it nonetheless. So, what I want to note is I like this whole idea of the aging devil kind of manipulating its own sort of space. And I like the fact that Fujimoto brought up the question of whether it's the same type of space as the Eternity Devil or not. Now, I deduce it's for two specific reasons, and if either one of those two are correct, I will be satisfied. My first reasoning as to why Asa isn't able to use her abilities as opposed to when she used it against the Eternity Devil, I feel like it's more, it might have to do exactly like you said, that the aging devil is that much stronger than her, that her abilities are being, maybe like overridden or overpowered by the aging devil's own influence. Right. So I want to think it might be for that reason, because she does state that, again, like the aging devil is just that much stronger than her, and that's why she's not able to use her own abilities as opposed to with the Eternity Devil. But then again, that's just Asa kind of, I guess, not knowing everything and just kind of deducing that's the reason. I think there might be like a second reason, and this second reason would be much more interesting for me to take into account, and it would be much more interesting for me to kind of think about. And that is the fact that probably what is happening is that, the aging devil has created a completely different like pocket dimension or a different space where it can manipulate things, because there's a difference for me. There's a very clear difference between from when the Eternity Devil did this to now that the aging devil is doing this. Because when the Eternity Devil did this whole thing where it manipulated like a type of space, it literally manipulated a type of space in our own physical world, and it only affected that small space. And the space was like, it didn't change its appearance. Like it was literally the same space. In part 1 of Chainsaw Man, when it took over the hotel, it literally took over the hotel, and they said it that it's probably the hotel is the only one that's affected by the Eternity Devil's influence. And then in part 2, when they were in the aquarium, only the aquarium was affected by the Eternity Devil's influence. So I want to imagine that like a weaker devil, like for example, the Eternity Devil, can only manipulate a small space in our real world, and just affect only that small portion of like that small space. To affect time, and because it effectively manipulated that space, right? But the space was still the same. So like it didn't have any physical differences. It was literally just the same building, the same space, but just kind of like manipulated. With the aging devil though, it's not like that, because if that were the case, then they would literally be in like where they were while they were fighting it. Instead of that, though, they were basically transported to a completely different place. There are a bunch of fucking trees, and I imagine all of these trees are people that are just waiting to turn into soil and go back to the real world, because that's what they said, go back to the real world. So I want to imagine that the aging devil has not just manipulated a specific space within our real world, but instead has created a completely different dimension where its own rules and its own kind of like things apply, because the appearance is much, much different. I guess that's how I would explain it. But like in layman anime terms, if you watch JJK, what the Eternity Devil did was basically like a domain expansion in a specific small radius. All right. And then the aging devil just made a completely different dimension, like a completely different world. That's the best way I can explain it in like a simple terms. So the Eternity Devil affected a small radius with its influence, and the aging devil created a completely different pocket space where its powers and abilities override anyone else's abilities. That's how I would look at it, right? But again, that would be pretty good because it would kind of show that power scaling difference of lower tier devils affect the real world a small radius, while higher tier devils like primordial beings can basically create a completely different pocket space. And again, it wouldn't be too far-fetched because when the darkness devil first appeared in part 1, it did take them to hell, or to this universe's version of hell, but they were affected. Like when the darkness devil appeared, everything turned to dark, and then like the astronauts popped up and their hands kind of like popped off, and they were just so it affected it was like, I want to imagine it was a completely different small dimension. So I wish that were the case, because it would give these primordial beings like it would make them look much more dangerous, because a lot of people are looking down on them. but yeah, so that's kind of what I think is happening. But I think that knowing Fujimoto, it's basically going to be the first option, because, you know, I don't think he wants to get too freaky with things. He gets freaky, but he doesn't get too freaky. So I think the thing with Fujimoto is he gets comically weirdly freaky, but not like conceptually freaky. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of freaky for like people to turn into trees and wait until they dissolve and turn into soil to turn back into the real world. It's like, okay. Like, it's kind of a weird, strange, kind of freaky. It's not like conceptually freaky, like, you know what I mean? So that I think it's going to be more so the first option, because I don't see how, like, in what way, shape, or form Denji and Asa will get out of here, if not, you know, tearing their way out of this dimension. So I think that's going to happen unless they find a way to accelerate that aging process where they turn into a tree very quickly and turn into soil and get back to the real world. So that's why I think like the first option is probably the most normal one. I think Asa will probably find Yoru will find a way to make this dimension feel like her own and override the aging devil's agency, and then escape this dimension. I think it's more the first option because it's the easiest way for them to get out of here very quickly. So I hope that's not the case, but that's probably going to be the case. And just to wrap up this video, I want to talk a little bit about Yoru and Denji's whole situation. I think that the reason Yoru gave Denji a kiss was to like calm him down and get him back on track. I think Denji is a very simple character that kind of, again, the fact that Yoru is kissing Denji will probably make him concentrate. And I'm pretty sure Yoru is going to tell him, if you get us out of here and you get your head straight and your things together, I will give you another kiss. I think that's kind of the whole thing that's happening. I think it's for that reason, so that Denji can get his like shit together and decide to go out and get out of this place and find a way to get out. I think that's the reason she's doing it, and I don't disagree with people saying that she's actually feeling something for Denji. I think she kind of does. I think she might feel something for Denji, which I hope these two can have like a happy ending, because they kind of do like each other and it does seem very sincere. It's not like Makima and Denji, that Makima was just kind of like using like the guy. Here it feels like Asa, I don't know if loves, but at least she genuinely cares about Denji. And I think the only other person who genuinely cared about Denji was Nayuta, even though her way of expressing it was kind of more controlling and manipulative of, you can only be with me because everyone else will hurt you. With Oz, it's kind of like, I care about you. Like, I see you, which is kind of what Denji needs. It's kind of like what most people sometimes need. Just someone to say, like, I see you. Like, I notice you. And I think that's kind of what's happening with Asa. And I'm pretty sure Asa's feelings are rubbing off on Yoru. And Yoru's kind of, in a way, shape, or form, falling for Denji. But I'm pretty sure this kiss, at least, whilst she might have wanted to do it, I'm pretty sure it's more so as a way of getting Denji to settle down and focus at the task at hand and try to find a way for them to get out of here, because they got to get out of here. So yeah, that's my discussion for this chapter. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time. So bye bye.